Welcome back to another Sleepy Steve story. Before we drift off tonight, remember to subscribe to help Steve-O out, and I will keep making more sleepy stories to help you study gently, revise quietly, and settle your mind at the end of the day. Tonight, we are beginning Unit 3 of Health and Human Development, and that means we are moving into the part of the course where the ideas become broader, more connected, and more exam-focused. But we are not going to rush through them. We are going to move slowly, like a quiet walk through a town at night, where each window has a soft light behind it, and each light shows us one part of what health and well-being really means. In this episode, we are looking at Unit 3, Area of Study 1, and our focus is understanding health and well-being, not just memorizing a definition, not just listing 5 dimensions, but understanding health and well-being as something complex, dynamic, subjective, and connected to the wider world. So take a slow breath in and let it out. Health and well-being is not simply whether someone is sick or not sick. That is one of the first ideas to let settle into your mind. In health and human development, health is understood in a much richer way than the absence of disease or injury. A person may not have a diagnosed illness, but they may still be struggling emotionally, feeling socially isolated, lacking purpose, or living in conditions that make it hard to thrive. At the same time, a person may be managing a health condition, yet still experience strong social connections, hope, purpose, resilience, and a meaningful sense of well-being. This is why health and well-being is described as complex. It has many parts. Those parts influence one another, and they can change over time. When you see the phrase health and well-being in HHD, imagine it as a wide, interconnected landscape rather than a single straight line. There are physical parts, social parts, emotional parts, mental parts, and spiritual parts. There are personal experiences, community supports, cultural meanings, access to resources, and global conditions. There are visible signs such as illness, fitness, housing, food, safety, and access to healthcare. There are also invisible signs such as confidence, belonging, stress, hope, purpose, connection, and dignity. All of these things sit together. All of them matter, and all of them can influence whether a person is able to live well. Let us begin with the 5 dimensions of health and well-being. The first is physical health and well-being. Physical health and well-being relates to the functioning of the body and its systems. It includes things such as energy levels, fitness, body weight, freedom from illness and injury, the strength of the immune system, and the ability to perform daily tasks. When someone has strong physical health and well-being, they may have enough energy to attend school or work, move comfortably, sleep well, recover from illness, and take part in everyday life. When physical health and well-being is challenged, a person might experience pain, fatigue, disease, injury, disability, poor nutrition, or limited capacity to carry out normal activities. But physical health and well-being does not stand alone. It connects to every other dimension. Poor sleep can affect concentration and emotional control. Chronic pain can affect mood and social participation. Regular movement can improve mental health, confidence, and social connection. So even when the word physical seems simple, in HHD it is always connected to the bigger picture. The second dimension is social health and well-being. social health and well-being relates to the ability to form meaningful and satisfying relationships and to interact positively with others. It includes family relationships, friendships, peer connections, community participation, communication skills, support networks, and a sense of belonging. Strong social health and well-being can help a person feel included and supported. It can provide practical help, emotional comfort, and a sense that they are not facing life alone. Poor social health and well-being might involve isolation, conflict, exclusion, bullying, unsafe relationships, or lack of support. And again, it connects. If a young person feels socially isolated, their mental and emotional health may decline. If they have strong friendships, they may be more likely to seek help, join activities, cope with stress, and make healthier decisions. The third dimension is emotional health and well-being. Emotional health and well-being relates to the ability to recognize, understand, and manage emotions, and to express them appropriately. It includes resilience, self-awareness, emotional regulation, empathy, and the ability to cope with change. A person with strong emotional health and well-being is not happy every moment of every day. That is not the goal. Instead, they can experience a range of emotions, understand those feelings, and use strategies to manage them in ways that do not cause harm to themselves or others. They may be able to recover after disappointment, talk about difficult feelings, or seek support when needed. Poor emotional health and well-being may involve difficulty managing anger, sadness, fear, grief, or frustration. It may also make it harder to maintain relationships, concentrate, or feel in control. The fourth dimension is mental health and well-being. Mental health and well-being relates to the current state of a person's mind or brain and their ability to think, process information, make decisions, cope with stress, and experience positive self-esteem. It includes confidence, self-worth, levels of stress and anxiety, thought patterns, problem-solving ability, and the capacity to learn. Strong mental health and well-being may help a person manage daily challenges, think clearly, set goals, and feel capable. Poor mental health and well-being may involve high levels of stress, anxiety, low self-esteem, negative thinking, confusion, or difficulty coping with everyday demands. In exams, students sometimes mix up emotional and mental health and well-being. A simple way to separate them is this. Emotional health and well-being is more about feelings and emotional responses. Mental health and well-being is more about thinking, coping, self-esteem, stress, and the functioning of the mind. They are different, but they are strongly connected. An anxious thought may create an emotional response. A difficult emotion may affect concentration and decision-making. This connection is part of why health and well-being is complex. The fifth dimension is spiritual health and well-being. Spiritual health and well-being relates to ideas of meaning, purpose, values, belonging, and connection to something beyond oneself. For some people, this may involve religion or faith. For others, it may involve connection to culture, country, community, nature, family, personal values, or a sense of purpose in life. Strong spiritual health and well-being can help a person feel grounded. It can support identity, hope, meaning, and resilience. Poor spiritual health and well-being may involve feeling disconnected, lacking purpose, or feeling that life has little meaning. It is important to remember that spiritual health and well-being does not have to mean religious belief. In HHD, it is broader than that. It is about meaning, purpose, values, and connection. Now, let us pause for a moment. Physical, social, emotional, mental, spiritual, 5 dimensions. But they should not sit in your mind as 5 separate boxes. They are more like 5 quiet streams flowing into one river. A change in one dimension can influence the others. A young person who is physically unwell may miss school, which may affect social connections, which may affect emotional well-being, which may affect mental well-being and motivation. A person who feels a strong sense of belonging and purpose may be more likely to look after their physical health, seek support, manage stress, and connect positively with others. A person with strong mental well-being may be better able to make decisions about nutrition, physical activity, relationships, and healthcare. This is one of the most important exam skills in HHD. Do not only name a dimension, explain how it connects to another dimension. For example, instead of saying access to sport improves physical health and well-being, you could say access to sport may improve physical health and well-being by supporting fitness and energy levels, while also improving social health and well-being by allowing young people to build friendships and feel a sense of belonging. That kind of sentence shows connection. And connection is where HHD answers become stronger. Now we move to another key idea. Health and well-being is dynamic. Dynamic means it is constantly changing. It can change quickly and it can change gradually. It can change across a day, across a week, across a year, and across a lifespan. A student may wake up tired and stressed before an exam, feel calmer after speaking to a teacher, feel energized after lunch, and feel connected after spending time with friends. That is health and well-being shifting within one day. Across a lifespan, health and well-being may change with growth, aging, relationships, employment, income, housing, injury, illness, family responsibilities, and access to health care. At a population level, health and well-being can also change over time. Vaccination programs, safer roads, better sanitation, improved education, healthier food environments, and public health campaigns can improve health and well-being. Economic hardship, conflict, climate change, discrimination, pandemics, or poor access to healthcare can reduce it. So health and well-being is not fixed. It moves. It changes. It responds to conditions. This is why students should be careful not to describe a person or a population as permanently healthy or unhealthy. HHD asks us to look at factors, contexts, and patterns. The next idea is that health and well-being is subjective. Subjective means that it can be viewed differently by different people. People may define health and well-being in different ways depending on age, culture, values, experiences, expectations, and circumstances. One person might see strong health and well-being as being physically fit and free from illness. Another might focus on being mentally calm and emotionally balanced. Another might value family connection, community belonging, or spiritual purpose. A young person might associate well-being with friendships, confidence, and independence. An older person might focus on mobility, safety, connection, and the ability to live independently. A community may understand health and well-being through cultural identity, connection to land, family, tradition, and collective well-being. This does not mean that health has no measurable features. We can still use health indicators and data, but the experience of health and well-being is personal. It is lived, it is felt. It is interpreted through individual and cultural perspectives. That is why HHD asks us to think about individual and population perspectives. An individual perspective looks at one person's experience of health and well-being. It may involve their feelings, relationships, physical state, beliefs, choices, and circumstances. A population perspective looks at groups of people and patterns across those groups. It might compare health status between age groups, genders, locations, socioeconomic groups, or countries. Both perspectives matter. The individual perspective reminds us that health and well-being is personal and lived. The population perspective helps governments, organizations, and communities identify trends, inequalities, and priority areas for action. When we look at health and well-being in Unit 3, we are often moving between these perspectives. We might think about what health and well-being means to one person. Then we might look at data showing how a whole population is experiencing health outcomes. Another key idea is that health and well-being is global. This means it is influenced by conditions beyond one person, one family, or even one country. Global health and well-being is shaped by factors such as international trade, migration, climate change, conflict, technology, access to medicines, food systems, education, income, aid, human rights, and international cooperation. A health issue in one part of the world can affect people in many other places. A pandemic can cross borders. Climate change can affect food security, water safety, housing, disease patterns, and mental well-being. Global conflict can lead to displacement, trauma, and pressure on health systems. New medical technology or international health programs can improve survival, treatment, and prevention. So when we say health and well-being is global, we are recognizing that people are connected. Countries are connected, systems are connected, and health is influenced by conditions that extend far beyond individual choices. This is especially important in HHD because the course moves from Australia's health in Unit 3 to global health and human development in Unit 4. The ideas begin here. Health and well-being is not only personal, it is social, national, and global. Now let us think about well-being as a resource. This is a powerful phrase. Health and well-being is not just an outcome at the end of life. It is also a resource for everyday living. When a person has strong health and well-being, they may be better able to attend school, work, form relationships, participate in community life, care for others, make decisions, earn income, and pursue goals. Health and well-being helps people live the kind of life they value. It supports human development. It allows people to expand their choices, develop capabilities, and participate in society. On the other hand, poor health and well-being can limit opportunities. Illness, stress, unsafe housing, lack of support, or poor access to healthcare may make it harder to study, work, participate socially, or plan for the future. So when you explain health and well-being in HHD, remember that it is not just something people have. It is something that helps people do. It supports participation. It supports choice. It supports development. It supports a life with dignity and possibility. Now, for exam writing, there are a few calm phrases worth remembering. You might say, health and well-being is complex because it includes multiple interrelated dimensions. You might say, health and well-being is dynamic because it can change over time and in response to different internal and external factors. You might say, health and well-being is subjective because it is experienced and interpreted differently by individuals and groups. You might say, health and well-being is global because it is influenced by conditions, systems, and events that extend across national borders. And you might say, the dimensions of health and well-being are interrelated because a change in one dimension can positively or negatively influence another. These are not sentences to memorize without thinking. They are sentence pathways. They help you move from definition to explanation. And in HHD, explanation is everything. Let us practice one gentle example. Imagine a young person who has safe housing, supportive friendships, enough food, access to health care, and a strong sense of cultural identity. Their physical health and well-being may be supported by nutrition, sleep, safety, and access to treatment. Their social health and well-being may be supported by friendships, family, and community. Their emotional health and well-being may be supported by security and stable relationships. Their mental health and well-being may be supported by lower stress, confidence, and access to help. Their spiritual health and well-being may be supported by identity, purpose, and connection to culture or values. Now, imagine the opposite. Unsafe housing, food insecurity, social isolation, discrimination, and lack of access to services may harm multiple dimensions at once. This is why HHD does not separate health from the conditions in which people live. Health and well-being is shaped by circumstances. It is shaped by resources. It is shaped by opportunity. It is shaped by connection. And it is shaped by systems. So as you drift through Unit 3, keep asking yourself these questions. Which dimension is being affected? How does it connect to another dimension? Is the question asking about an individual or a population? Is the health and well-being issue changing over time? Is there a wider social, national, or global factor involved? And how does this influence people's ability to live well? Those questions will guide you through much of the course. Now let us begin to settle the episode. Tonight, we have looked at health and well-being as more than the absence of illness. We have moved through the 5 dimensions: physical, social, emotional, mental, and spiritual. We have seen that these dimensions are connected. We have seen that health and well-being is complex, dynamic, subjective, and global. We have seen that it can be understood from both individual and population perspectives. And we have begun to understand health and well-being as a resource for living, learning, connecting, participating, and developing. That is the foundation of Unit 3, a broad foundation, a connected foundation, a foundation that everything else will rest upon. So take one final, slow breath in and let it out. You do not need to hold every detail tightly tonight. Just keep the shape of the idea. Health and well-being is not one thing. It is many things connected together. It changes. It is experienced differently. It reaches beyond the individual. And it helps people live with possibility, dignity, and purpose. Sleep well. And when you are ready, I'll see you in the next episode.